Thanks for joining me on episode 1029 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Deborah Heiser. I challenge you to invest in yourself, invest in others, develop your influence, and impact the world by using your time, your talent, and your treasures to live out your calling. Having the ability to mentor and be mentored is key, and one way to be inspired to do that is to listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my friend, Scott Mader.
In fact, sometimes I think our gift comes so naturally to us that our tendency is to discount it and think of it as something that other people won't value because, after all, it's so easy. And yet you have to recognize the fact that gifting is probably not that easy for most people. It's easy for you because it's your gift.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In today's episode about developing your influence through stewarding your talent, I talk with you about why knowing our gifting is so important. I share several questions or things to consider when you're identifying your gifts, and I also share a few things that are often shared, but I don't necessarily agree are a great way of finding your gifting.
You've heard me talk about developing your talent, and one of the best ways to do that is through books. But if you're like most people today, it's hard to find the time to read. And that's why today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Go to inspiredstewardship.com/audible to sign up, and you can get a 30-day free trial. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from, and you can pick one and listen your way to developing your talents via Audible. That's inspiredstewardship.com/audible to get your free trial and listen to great books the same way you're listening to this podcast.
One of the things that you hear people talking about a lot is discovering your gifting, discovering those things that you're uniquely made to do. I talk about it a lot on the podcast myself. It's something that I think is really important. And when I talk about living out your calling, part of that is living out in alignment with your gift. At the same time, that's one of those things that we often have misunderstandings about. I know people that think their gifting is their career or their job, and it isn't. And I know people that think that their gifting is the talents that they have, the things that they're good at. And that's not really true either. The gifting is that thing that you can do in a unique way or with unique skill and ability. It's the thing that comes in a way naturally to you. It's the thing that you find easy and available and competent and connection with in a way that most people don't. So, for instance, a talent is something that you can be trained in, you can develop, you can learn. Can you be taught to be a better singer today than you were yesterday? And the answer is yes. And yet, we all know people that have a special gifting when it comes to song. And those people with training become phenomenal singers that make it look so easy and make it seem like something that they were born to do. That is what we're talking about when we say our gifting. Oftentimes, it's something that we are going to use and monetize and turn into some way of our career or our job, but not necessarily. It also could be something that you do as a hobby or something that you do just for fun. So several ways that you can use to identify your gift. One of the ways that I like is to think through these three questions. What can I do that I'm best at? Or what can I do with little effort on my part? Not little effort as in it's easy and simple to do, it's low-hanging fruit, but meaning when you do it, even though it's something that oftentimes other people find difficult or challenging or have a hard time doing, it just comes easily to you. What is the one thing that other people tend to associate with you? What is it that they say when they think of you, they think of this thing? And if you've listened to others when you've been using that gift, how do they reflect on how you use it and how it makes them feel? Think about the things that you achieve excellence in with ease, the things that come easily in terms of excellence. You get better at it quicker. You get mastery of it faster. In fact, it's the things that often when you do them, it surprises you even with how easy or how amazing it comes out. It just happens and then it's excellent. And things that you do that move and connect to others are often areas of your gifting. Now, the truth is, again, I talked a little bit about it at the beginning, but oftentimes you hear people talk about their gifting in terms of their talent or in terms of the things that they can do to make money with or the things that they have a passion for. And I would say your gift often overlaps with those areas, but it's not the same as those areas. There are things that I have a passion for that I really enjoy doing and find pleasure in, and yet they're not things that I'm particularly good at, that don't necessarily come easy to me. I actually have to work at them some. I know people that, for instance, when it comes to certain sports like golf, maybe, or tennis, they love it, they enjoy it, it's something that they have fun with, and it's a passion for them, but it's not their gifting. It's not something that they do that just comes easily to them, and they excel at it in that way. Everyone has giftings, and everyone has talents, and everyone has passions, and sometimes all of those overlap, but other times they don't. In fact, sometimes I think our gift comes so naturally to us that our tendency is to discount it and think of it as something that other people won't value because, after all, it's so easy. And yet you have to recognize the fact that gifting is probably not that easy for most people. It's easy for you because it's your gift. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you like this episode on the stewardship of talent, you can go over to inspiredstewardship.com/talent and sign up for our 5-week series on the stewardship of talent. Or if you're in the U.S., you can text 44222 talent tips. That's talent tips to 44222 and get those tips. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.